5:30 hour continuing coverage now of the trial of the decade in Kentucky. Crystal Rogers killed 10 years ago. The man charged with her murder now on trial, Brooks Houck. Day one of testimony already bringing some bombshells out of the courtroom. Opening statements finishing today in the second murder trial in the Crystal Rogers murder case.
Rogers disappeared July 4th weekend in Bardstown, Kentucky. The main person of interest, her boyfriend at the time, Brooks Houck, stands trial along with his alleged accomplice, Joseph Lawson.
And Crystal's daughter there, Kylie Fenwick, also on the stand today. WHS 11 News legal analyst Nick Mudd is joining us here every night at 5:30. I really want to start with the prosecutor coming right out of the gate. We're talking about a bombshell, painting a picture of the mother of Brooks Houck, Rosemary Houck, being sort of the alleged mastermind to get rid of Crystal because she didn't like Crystal.
Right, and that's interesting because that's not something we heard from the first trial at all. And Jim Lasowski's part of the prosecution team. He's got probably 4 decades of experience, and I mean he came right out of the gate and said that, and I think that was a big deal, surprising for a lot of people, and certainly made our jaws drop.
Is it surprising, though, that her name keeps coming up? Brooks' brother's name came up. I mean, and these folks have not been charged with anything to be used in both trials by the prosecution. And a lot of times in these crimes, we see everybody that they think is involved charged at first, and then maybe they turn on each other or they drop charges against some and then take some to trial. So what's happening here? It seems very different than what we normally see.
It is interesting. They came right out of the gate and said she was the mastermind.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think one of the things is maybe they just didn't feel like they had enough evidence to go forward on her, to charge her, because it seems as if at this point, if they did, they would have. But she's been nowhere to be found. She hasn't been in the courtroom, hasn't been in the courthouse. So, I think that's interesting as well.
We've always called her the unindicted co-conspirator. But, Nick, why isn't she in the courtroom? And do you think she's going to appear? They're going to bring her in there? I
mean, certainly the prosecution has stated she was involved out of the gate, and so she has a Fifth Amendment right not to testify. So I assume she has a lawyer, and if she does, that lawyer's going to say, you're not getting on the stand, we're not going to let you testify, and you're going to assert your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent.
What struck you about the prosecution today in their opening statement, did you think made a good impact on the jury?
I think they put a good structure to how they believed it happened, and they did what I expected, which is to take all of the circumstances together and kind of build that kind of to a point and saying, hey, there's only one possible person this could be, and that's Brooks Houck.
The trial got started so fast. Were there opening statements involving the man there in the wheelchair? That's Joseph Lawson, the son of Steve Lawson.
Right, yeah. His attorneys, actually, Robert Boyd and Kevin Coleman, they waived opening, a reserved opening, which means, essentially, after the prosecution's finished with their case, they're allowed to give an opening statement then. And I tell you, because my understanding is about 95% of the evidence, and even the evidence today, has to do with Brooks Houck, had nothing to do with Joseph Lawson, almost all of the evidence today. So I think they made the brilliant move here to say, look, we're going to sit back and hear what the prosecution has to say, and then we're going to go on the attack on the second part of the trial.
For the prosecution's opening statement, do you think that the motive they presented was hard enough? I mean, just that they didn't like her? I mean, that is certainly not the motive we've heard around. So that seems weak, I think, as far as jurors might be concerned.
It didn't feel very strong, but again, you do not need motive in criminal cases. As a former prosecutor, you want them. It makes jurors feel better about, convicting somebody if they have to, if the proof is there. However, it is not required. It is not an element of the crime of murder in the state of Kentucky.
For the first time, we heard about a timeline, an alleged timeline, that it was a 2-week run-up before she disappeared, and that Rosemary Houck allegedly put it into motion.
Right. I thought that was fascinating. And again, that's not something we heard at all or expected. I memean, we haven't seen that from any of the witnesses we heard from until today, and they threw that out there. Definitely was a curveball. But, they have a theory they're going on, and the prosecution is going full bore on that theory.
The defense made a lot of key points today. One of them that I thought, I was just talking about the prosecution, what I thought was weak about them. For the defense, talking about the cell phone of the Lawsons coming in on the Bluegrass Parkway, but it really wasn't the Bluegrass Parkway. It was a road that goes the same way as the Bluegrass Parkway. It just didn't get picked up by that cell phone tower. I don't know if I'm on the jury, I buy that as a big
Yeah, I think
excuse there.
that's something that's just going to have to play out with the witnesses. I will say, though, Steve Shoring did the opening for Brooks Houck, and one of the things I found fascinating is he attacked every single piece of evidence he thinks they're going to bring up. He had an explanation for everything. There was no stone left unturned in that opening statement, and I think, fireworks are starting.
So if you're just joining us and diving in, yesterday it was the prosecutor who came out and said, there is no victim in this case. We have no evidence, no remains of Crystal Rogers. We've talked about that a lot. The video we've been showing people are those massive searches, those FBI summer searches many times that we spent days covering with no evidence of her remains. What are we expecting to learn from all of those records and everything that the FBI hauled out of houses and then the search of the farms?
I think they're going to start filling in that timeline. Because the opening statements are not evidence, okay?
Sure.
They're not. All they are is what the attorneys believe the evidence is going to show.
It's sort of the blueprint of the case, though, right?
It is, but I think that what we're going to expect is those gaps are going to start being filled in by the prosecution with that timeline, and they're going to try to narrow down that timeline so tight to say, look, it is impossible for this young lady to go missing in any other circumstance other than Brooks Houck committed a murder.
We know the defense attorneys are charismatic. Does that hurt the prosecution coming out?
Steve Shoring is very likable. I think the jury here probably liked him. He's intelligent and he's reasonable, not screaming and yelling, nothing like that, but just a person that you would listen to, trust, and I think made reasonable arguments and explanations for a lot of the prosecution's evidence.
Well, we know Bardstown's abuzz with this information that came out today. Thank you, Nick. It is the trial of the decade for this area, and it has captivated us all more than the other Bardstown mysteries that have been underway over the years. The trial of the man named as the chief suspect long ago, Brooks Houck, and alleged accomplice Joseph Lawson, is underway. Don't forget to join us at 9 p.m. tonight on the WHAS 11 Plus app. We have a 30-minute special every night after testimony at 9 p.m. We will break down the key moments. Nick will be along here with his analysis after the full day of work in the courtroom. Download the WHAS 11 Plus app on your TV and then watch for free. See you at 9 tonight.